All right, it's Hank. I'm going to go in and talk right now about feeding the beast, about YouTube, how it works, a little bit about the search algorithm, and a little bit about how PsyOps work on YouTube. All right, well, in any marketing situation, you're always kind of led to believe that you have the illusion of choice. Now, YouTube is the master of illusion of choice because if you are actively searching out things, it's going to send you to other things that are related to the topics of interest. Now, it's not necessarily a malicious thing. It's not necessarily that there's a devil in the machine. It's the entire purpose of the YouTube algorithm is to keep you watching, to keep you engaging, ultimately for you to post, ultimately for you to be able to generate views and content, therefore making the platform stronger and bringing profit into Google and the YouTube company. Well, it hits a little bit of a snag every once in a while when information that let's call them the powers that be, very moneyed interest, like the $1.2 billion that was just paid out for the manipulation of search results around the time of the Hillary Clinton election. They run into little snags like that, and they have to use dirty tricks to try and keep this information from getting out. So they use PsyOps. I'll give you a perfect example of a PsyOp called TI, or Targeted Individuals. Now, the main weapon is fear. The main weapon that keeps you from being able to engage your neighbors or to make a stand against things that are wrong or corrupt or anything is fear. Fear is the main weapon. So TI, Targeted Individuals. You're searching around on the internet, and YouTube is my platform that I very rarely ever go off the reservation in order to keep a purity in my analysis. So you start to look at things like FEMA camps or military movements, conspiracy theories, and so on and so forth, and eventually you'll run down into a PsyOp, or you'll run down into a hole because you might be getting a little too close to the truth. Davos had a great quote. He said, when you're over the target, you're going to catch some flack. Well, the whole thing behind TI, or Targeted Individuals, is you start to feel like you're isolated, because you are isolating yourself by searching out only specific types of information. It's very important to always try and attempt to broaden your perspectives to help make yourself immune from these PsyOps, number one. Number two, to have kind of trusted sources and people that you like, that you know that are not manipulating you. So that's going to be anything that doesn't have a mass amount of subscribers. You really can't trust anybody, but there's a few people you have to kind of trust. And like I said, again, I'm going to mention Ackerman again because I like to go and look at his work because while I don't necessarily agree with all of his assertions, I can be grounded over there every once in a while because he talks about truth and he talks about honesty. So I like that way that it grounds me. But back to the targeted individuals. Now, the pretense of being a targeted individual is they use directed energy weapons against you, or nanoparticulate dusts to mind control you, flashing images on the screen, embedded images, hypnotic tones, binaural frequencies. All of these things are very, very real. They do exist. And you get drawn into that world where you're trying to, maybe altruistically, you want to find out more about targeted individuals so you can help them. And then you'll run into some very, what I would call evil people that like Dr. Catherine Horton, or Stop 007. And if you can look at it with kind of a dispassionate sort of eye, or dispassionate sort of view, you can start to understand that she is a Personally, this is just speculation here, but I believe that she is either a sociopathic or psychotic individual that understands psychology. And when you start to feel like you're a targeted individual, you do feel fear, okay? And you start to feel isolation. You feel like directed energy weapons could be being used against you. It will feed paranoia, and therefore it distracts you, or it removes you, and it destroys your ability to analyze, to think, and then to confront the things that you really do need to be anxious about. Because anxiety is a perfectly normal reaction to have to events that are dangerous to you. I mean, fear is a natural response, and it's a healthy response. But you need to have courage, and courage is not the absence of fear. Only a fool is absent from fear. But courage is necessary to be able to confront your fears and still operate rationally while under the pressure of dealing with fear. So think about it rationally for a moment. If you believe that you're a targeted individual, probably what you're doing is you're chasing down different rabbit holes under the illusion of choice that you think that you have because of the search terms that you've used. And even though there's tons and tons and tons of information being uploaded to YouTube every day, the circles that you're going to travel in are going to be small enough where you probably will run across some of the same people that you've seen before, and you begin to understand that the internet or YouTube is a kind of a smaller place than they would have you believe. They have you believe that the internet is just such a monolithic, huge place, and really it's not. It's especially not surface internet. I don't deal with the deep web stuff or dark web stuff, but surface internet, you're going to run into the same people, same situations. You travel in the same circles, part of that community. So you start to feel like you're a targeted individual. You really need to stop and pause and realize you are part of a PsyOp that is being designed to instill fear in you. Just think for a moment. To use a directed energy weapon against somebody is very expensive, number one. Number two, to employ those weapons on such a massive scale for all the people that believe that they're targeted individuals is very cost prohibitive. If they really wanted to get you, they'd just crash your car into something like they did to Hastings, or put a bullet in your head. I mean, it's far easier. You have to think about the expense in any operation. But what's cheaper than putting a bullet in your head or crashing your car? It's to drive you to suicide, to drive you into despondency and despair, by using very nefarious techniques. And you'll find embedded in some of these different images in different places. And I do not recommend that you go looking into this. I've done it for you. And I have certain built-in protections, I think, from these attacks, these assaults, because I feel it, and then I'll have dreams about it sometimes, and my dreams are so lucid and so intense and so powerful. There can be a storm in my dream, or a lightning strike that will be louder than a lightning strike would be in reality. Most people's dreams are not quite as lucid as mine are. So when I start to get emotionally overwhelmed dealing with these psychological operations, there's those automatic things in me that kick in that kind of shock me back to reality. And also since I've studied it for so long, I study psychology, and I study hypnotic patterns, and I study hypnosis. I study temporal awareness, extrasensory perception. I always have, and I've always been wary of the internet. That's why you don't find very many records of me before 2014. In fact, I would challenge you to try and find records of me prior to that period. Pictures, anything, you're not going to find them. So that's all I have to say about the PsyOps that are real and that are out there. They will confuse you. But there's another saying that I'm going to conclude this with. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. That's what you really need to remember. You need to hold your convictions dear to your heart and not be held astray or drawn astray. And courage is critical, and having a self-awareness of understanding how you feel, and then being able to analyze things from an economic perspective. Because one thing I love and I highly encourage you to engage in is statistical analysis and mathematics. Because mathematics has a lovely way of being able to cut through the bullshit. Now, there's a lot of ways that people use mathematical theories like Hammurabi's code. Why they post them so high that the common person can't read them because they don't understand them. They just look like a mess of algorithmic nonsense, and generally it probably is. Now, there's some out there that make sense, but they post these way on up high, like the laws of Hammurabi's code, so that you can't understand them, and then you have to take it on faith that it's true because it's mathematics, but you don't. So you do your own statistical analysis and do your own, have your own thoughts about the economy of a situation and what it would take to accomplish something. Start to think about things tactically, and it'll save you a lot of trouble, a lot of headaches. And that's it. That's about PsyOps and targeted individuals. The last part of my 7-part jargon-free economic series is all about copyright, but I have to tread carefully because right now I will let you know that I'm working on it, but I'm not going to reveal my hand. If you have an interest or you believe that your rights are being violated and so far as copyright goes, I would be very interested in hearing from you. And that's all I'll say about that. I think we can look forward to some changes in the future. So it's been Hank. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll catch you on the flip side.